So I'll tell you what is quite interesting. Despite it being the coldest day of the year for sure, the coldest day of winter more to the point, the frost actually isn't as heavy as previous days. I really thought we were going to get a really thick frost. Now it might be that instead of it being thicker in the areas that was lighter, it might actually have permeated the woodland a little bit more, so we'll just have to wait and see. But interesting. I should probably learn more about stuff like that, shouldn't I? So I've got a little scene behind me here. Also just realised that the XT4 really struggles with face recognition when you have your hat pulled down like this. Clearly it likes slap heads. There you go. So a little scene behind me here that I haven't yet sort of worked out, but just thought I would break that with a little bit of a chat to camera. And again, it's all just about catching the little splashes of colour. Now we're still 15 minutes or so away from sunrise, so there's not a huge amount of light in the area, and there's zero clouds above us, so we're not really getting any reflective light. But the little splash of colour here just helped me a lot. Now there's a couple of things, if I just sort of wander into the scene a little bit, there's a couple of things that were something to overcome. Number one issue, there's going to be lots of bright sky if I'm not careful, so it might be something that I look at a 16:9 crop. And then secondly, you can just about see it there. There's another trunk of tree that's quite bright in the background, and when I initially sort of was looking at it, I thought to myself, well, that might actually work as a little sort of element further into the frame, but I actually think that it's a bit distracting, so I needed to just move myself to the right. I know that was to my left, but it's still quite early. Bizarrely as well, there was an early morning runner running down there, and just seemed to turn on our heels and run away again. Anyway, we'll see whether we can make something work here. I quite like the sort of bending shape of the main trunk and then the leaves across, but I think it's going to need light, and we're not going to get any light into here for another good 45 minutes or so, and I don't really want to sort of just stand here, so I might take a shot and then maybe come back to it. But one of those images that will never see the light of day. A real "what were you thinking, Nigel?" Anyway, back to the vlog. Just recording on the iPhone. You can probably see this little woodland has got a lovely little rise, and the first of the light is now just starting to stream through the woodland, and there's a lovely little path down here, and because the sun is just breaking over, it's just picking out little highlights. So I might go down here and see whether we can shoot something here, but it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So again, just recording on the iPhone. I'm really just focusing here on the stills, but just thought I would jump in. The light seems to have, I think the sun's gone behind a little cloud, but that's beautiful. That is gorgeous. And the only thing missing, wouldn't it be incredible to get a little bit of mist in this woodland? But just this little path behind me, the light's now gone. Light is just so wonderful. And here's the thing, I love it when that happens. Don't get me wrong, I love it when the light's there, but I love it when that happens, because it's almost as if the light was our little secret. Nobody else witnessed that right here. And okay, the light could come back tomorrow and someone could be walking through here, and I really hope they are and they get to witness that, because little dawn moments that are gone and you're the only one who witnessed it. And then later on that morning you're out wandering around and people are sort of coming out for the first time and they've got no idea it happened. Maybe it's just me, but that does make me smile. Not smile from a haha, I got it, you didn't, but just between me and Mother Nature, it's just getting quite emotional actually. I love it in the woods. Beautiful. Right, let's see whether we can get something else set up before that light maybe comes back again. While the light in the image is very pleasing and there are certain facts that I do like, such as the repeating patterns of the light and shadow along the path. The fact that I'm not completely centre in that path does let down the image somewhat. Also, the very bright parts centre top I think would need some work. But it's not bad for a starting point. And now that I know how the sun reacts in this particular woodland at this particular point, it's a location I hope to return to in the not too distant future. So I'm actually shooting another little scene behind me here, and you can see that that light has now come back out again. But actually this particular scene, I think it worked better with the more subdued light. Now, from what I can tell, there's no more clouds above the sun, so I think we're going to be able to maybe pick out over the next 15-20 minutes little pockets of light. But I think this is kind of a little bit of a sort of a diagonal away. Now, one of the things, diagonal away, don't even know what I'm talking about there. One of the things I'm trying to look at in the composition is there any overlap in those trees? Now, I think in some cases it's potentially going to be unavoidable. The other thing as well is just watching those highlights, because there are some pretty bright bits, especially in this first part of the tree. But stunning. I think the first light was the sweet spot, but nonetheless this is gorgeous, and I think it's time to pick out little pockets now. Again, no filters on here. 18:1 back on the 18:135 Fuji X-T2. As I alluded to in the field, the challenge in this scene was twofold. Firstly, controlling the highlights and the shadows, and secondly, looking out for any obvious overlap. I do quite like this from a visual perspective, and in fact I also converted that particular image to black and white, which I think potentially also works as well. Moving along somewhat, this was the original scene that I had looked to capture, and again I think it works reasonably well in black and white. And again I pushed the processing just a little bit more, just to bring out a bit more of a crunchy, moody feel. But again, as I said earlier, the fact that this is a location that I can visit quite frequently, and now that I know how the sun reacts to these trees, it's an area that I'd like to go back to and improve on. So, got another little scene behind me here. You can just see the little avenue of trees, and I love how the shadow of the trees and the light is just creating this lovely repeating pattern. And then at the very end there's a little shrub with a few little last autumnal leaves on it. And then actually what I quite like as well is the contrast of the cool blues in the background compared with the lovely warm rich tones in the woodland itself. I've shot both a landscape and a portrait orientation. I think just naturally because of the shape of the little path, it is probably lends itself to a portrait orientation, but I do like to give myself scope. Speaking of scope, given the fact that we are going to be much more limited over the next week of weeks, I'm also out collecting again. And by collecting I mean shooting just elements, bits of trees, bits of trunks, bits of twigs, the moon through the twigs, etc, etc. Just so when we are more limited with our movements, I can still be quite creative at home with some bit of Photoshop work. And if you remember, that's where I think some of my more popular images came from last year, certainly from a print perspective, the Photographers Who Stare at Rust series. In fact, I'm probably going to do some more of that actually, because I really enjoy doing that. So yeah, I've also been just shooting some abstracty elements, and I'll carry on doing that this morning. But yeah, again, nothing too complex, just the 18:135, no filters. And yeah, I think it's the blue tones in the background that are appealing to me there. So right, I think I'm going to wander down now to that little tree that we first shot to see whether there's any light on it and see whether it's made any difference. So let's go take a look at that. So again, the visual element of this frame, those repeating patterns, the light and the shadows. You've heard me speak about this before. I love the contrasting colours of cool blues and warmer oranges and reds, and I think we've kind of achieved that here. I actually have two versions of this image, and I'm not quite sure which one I like the most. This one, which has the highlighted tree, little shrub, and then the light carries on towards the back of the frame, or this one where the actual light hits that tree behind the shrub, but we lose the light in the back of the frame. I think the first one is probably my favourite. Now again, it feels maybe a little bit unbalanced because we don't have any trees on the right hand side in the foreground, but again, something to work on in the future. No light, so we'll wander on. So I brought myself back down into the lower woodland where it is a lot more frosty, and I'm just photographing a little scene here that I came across the last time I was here. And I'm not sure whether I can't keep up with when I'm posting what videos, but the last time I was here I talked about a sense of place, and while the individual image may not tell a story, maybe some of them will, I'm hoping that images laid upon each other as a collective might do. And I just love, now yesterday or it would have been last week, I don't know when it was, the last time I was here, this tree obviously didn't have the same frost on it, so it's just nice to capture in different conditions. And while the sun isn't illuminating anything in here, you can probably just see up behind there is just a little touch of sort of golden light, and that is just creeping ever so slightly into the top right hand side of the frame. So shooting it in a 16:9 crop, I think that works well. Just the spread of those branches stretching out up into the light. So quite like that. When I first got this image back into the digital darkroom, I was thinking to myself it was going to be another "what were you thinking, Nigel?" But actually, over time the image has grown on me, and perhaps that's a lesson that we should all be following, not to delete images too quickly from our library. In regards to telling a story, for me it does. The cool bluish shadows in the foreground, the fallen tree, the dead tree with the frost on it, and then almost reaching up towards those warmer, lighter parts of the image with a quite nice graduated feel from cool to warm. Slight annoyance on the right hand side of the frame, almost near the top. There's a little twig poking in there that perhaps could be cleaned up in post. But as I say, I think this is an image that has grown on me. Probably not growing on too many other people. But I like it when an image such as this does stick with me in the longer term. Right guys, well I think that's going to be it for today. As always, I'm going to carry on with the camera anyway for the next hour or so. Just mitching about here and seeing what there is to shoot, but I'm going to put the video camera away. As I've said many times before, I like to afford myself some time without the video camera. So, lovely frosty morning again. Beautiful. Right guys, as always, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye bye.